The narrative.
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 Changing the Narrative, an initiative powered by OVG.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the second season of the Changing the Narrative podcast. This podcast was created to increase Ghanaian and African cultural patronage through conversations aimed at shifting our mindset for the better. I am very thrilled to let you all know that this season is sponsored by NewComma, a platform created for African creatives to share their work, find jobs, as well as events. On this episode, I am even extra excited. I don't know if that's actually like a great phrase, but I am really, really excited to have the founders of NewComma here with me. And I can't wait for us to delve into what NewComma is all about, find out more about them as well. But just to allow them to introduce themselves, I'm going to leave it to Nigel and Natalie to introduce themselves and tell us a bit more about NewComma. So
yeah, I'm really, really pleased to be on this podcast. My name is Nigel Atamensa. I need to remember to look at the camera, not the screen. But yeah, I'm a co-founder of NewComma. As Equia said, NewComma is a social recruitment platform aimed at helping African creatives all around the world access funding, access opportunities, and basically get paid to be themselves. My role in NewComma is more on the business and finance and operations side, but I do love being in content and shooting content. I've been a photographer, a videographer for a long time, from secondary school days back in Ghana all the way through uni and after. And through that process is how I met Natalie at school. And I'm sure she'll get a bit more into it. So that's a bit about me. Maybe I guess one thing that some people might know, some people don't know. I've been in banking for the last 6 years. This is actually my last week because I'm going into NewComma full time. So yeah, really excited about the future. And obviously we have a lot to achieve, so I cannot wait.
First of all, congratulations on moving time into NewComma.
Thank you.
I think while we wait for Natalie, maybe you can give me a background as to how NewComma came about. Like, how you did say you and Natalie were in school together. So how did you guys come together to like create this amazing platform?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, being in school in Ghana was an interesting time for us, right? Yeah. I was born in Ghana and grew up between basically Accra and London because my parents were moving and I was moving schools with them. Some way, somehow in 2012, I ended up in SOS in Tema. And that's like the first time I actually met Natalie in person. Like, you know how people meet each other on like Facebook and socials? We've connected before, but it wasn't quite the same. So yeah, I was in SOS and that's where I met Natalie. And while we were in school there, and note for those who don't know about SOS, this is a boarding school based in Tema in Ghana. And essentially it brings together students from all across Africa because it's owned by this foundation, the SOS Kinderdorf Foundation. And their whole mandate is to try and support, the youth all around the world, essentially, without access to opportunities. So Natalie's rejoined. I'm just talking about the story of how we met and how we came up with NewComma. And I just got to SOS and I just started off at SOS. So essentially, while we were in SOS, we had access to some incredible equipment, incredible after school, like extracurriculars. One of them was video casts. And that's where we learned to like produce content, like use cameras. We were doing stuff for the school. So the moment you bring a camera out in a school, instantly you become the school photographer or videographer, whether you like it or not. So that's what happened, once we started getting into that. But luckily for us, we had the privilege and the access to that kind of opportunity at a very early stage, which many didn't really have. I think that's probably where we started to see that you can use something that is fun to you and useful to others to actually make a small difference, at least at that stage. And I think it also started to give us that sense of independence that I think as growing up, like people yearn for more and more. So using those skills, I think the summer of 2012, I did a course at the London School of Photography. And that's where I actually said, okay, I'm going to go beyond an interest and I'm going to actually learn the technical skills to actually use this camera and shoot better pictures. And that's what I did. Natalie also did the same course. So from then, we're able to actually make a career out of photography, videography, making content for ourselves and other people. We had those ideas, but we had to go to uni. So we parked them for now. But throughout uni, we're shooting content for different people, our friends, different local brands, different local businesses and services. But we always wanted to find a way to still remain connected with Ghana, especially approaching like the end of our time in uni. Every time you come to Ghana in December, there's a new song, there's a new artist who's popping, and we realized that, okay, we're kind of like losing touch. And you can't only find out things in December when there are 11 other months in the year. So we started a series of projects. And I think my favorite one, and probably jointly our favorite one, was the Cool Kids Project. So essentially, the Cool Kids Project was an opportunity for us to shed light on what young African Ghanaian talent was doing at the time that was bubbling just below the surface. And we felt they deserved a bit more recognition. With the Cool Kids Project, we went around Accra basically shooting pictures of so many people. I think it was like something like 13 or 14 people initially because of the different groups. We covered music, fashion, lifestyle, all sorts of things, and started to mock them up on popular magazine covers. And then we just started like pushing them out on Twitter, on all different socials, and people now finally started to pay attention. So it's like these people have been there with you. They've been putting out their music, they've been putting out their shows, they've been putting out their fashion, but you didn't really pay attention until you saw them on GQ or Vice. But I think it was an interesting experiment. So we did that for a few years. And then we started to think about, okay, we've done this in Ghana. Going back to our roots at SOS, we knew that there was talent all across Africa because we had seen it firsthand going to school with, people from Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Kenya, all in Denmark for some reason. So as we tried to expand, we started to think about how do we do this for other African countries? How do we do this for the Black diaspora? And that's when we realized that it's not as simple as going to ask, your friends who might still be in Ghana, because if you don't have friends in Lagos or Nairobi or Kigali, you're just never going to get that level of contact. And some of this talent feels a little bit gate kept or underappreciated. So they don't really get the same love when it comes to retweets and shares. So they don't surface to your TL. So we just thought, okay, let's try and do something that actually fixes this. And maybe this is where I'll let Natalie take over for the next half of the story.
I think there's the personal side to why we started NewComma, but then also it was the realization that a lot of the things that we experienced, because of the nature of the high school that we went to, it was very evident that there were other people across the continent who were going through those same issues. So in our quest to try and expand the documentary that Nigel was talking about, the Cool Kids Project, we found that it was getting harder and harder to find other people across the continent who were also like us. And to be an underground creative, you're still kind of known to some extent. An underground creative is more like a known niche, right? But then they still have a level of a cult following. And for us, as much as Instagram, LinkedIn, Behance, all of these other platforms exist and creatives are active on there, because these platforms aren't being created with people like us in mind, there will never really be a time where they will be primarily building to solve issues that are specific to our demographic. And it was through working on that documentary that led us to actively build on something that solved that issue, which mirrored platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter, Behance, etc. And that's what led to the creation of NewComma, which is a social media platform for African creatives, not just on the continent, but across the diaspora, Black creatives to share their work, find jobs, and later on in 2024, they'll be able to buy and sell tickets on NewComma as well. So in terms of what one can do on NewComma within those 4 silos currently is on the feed, just like any other social media platform, you can share your
daily updates on what you've been working on. You can share content from other platforms as well. You could gain inspiration from other people who are on the feed as well. And we're not necessarily just limited to just visual artists. We're also targeting people who are adjacent or supportive of the creative industry as well. So you have account managers, you have people who work in legal within advertising agencies, you have medics who sit on film sets, you have gaffers, you have all of these technical people who complement what creatives already do. And for us, it's about creating a space for both of these parties to exist. And all of those people can share their daily updates on the feed, as well as businesses who are looking to hire talent. And then on your profiles, you've got your personal feeds, so also all the posts that you've sent to NewComma. But then you've got your about section, which is essentially your resume. So that's everything from your educational experience, any awards you've gotten, your bio. You've got some tags for your skills as well. And then, most importantly, you've got your portfolio. And this is where you can add in all of your creative work and embed content from other platforms. So we're not necessarily saying don't tweet ever again, don't post on Instagram, don't post on website, all of those things. You can continue to do those things. But the special thing about NewComma is you can aggregate all of that content in one place. So it's not like Instagram where you're just limited to your link in bio. You can literally have your Instagram content embedded within a NewComma project or a tweet embedded within a NewComma project. So you can have stuff on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, Google Slides. You get the gist. And the beauty of that means any kind of creative can use NewComma because it's media formats with the project builder. So you can add in an image block, which allows direct image and GIF uploads at the moment. The embeds is what allows you to add videos with your YouTube or your Vimeo, Instagram, etc. embeds. And then you've got text, where if you're a blogger, you're a writer, any kind of creative writing can be accommodated and you come up with a text block. And then you've got some spacers and color blocks as well, where you can mix and match and customize how you want your project to look to other people. And once you publish that, it's a completely public link. Someone doesn't have to be signed up to NewComma to see a particular NewComma project or your entire NewComma portfolio, which is made up of NewComma projects. So that's the hierarchy of your creative documentation in NewComma. So that's the feed, that's your profile and projects. And recently launched, we've got the jobs board as well, where individuals and businesses can post their vacancies on the NewComma jobs board. And we've gone with a daily rate as opposed to a monthly rate because we want to make recruiting accessible as well. So for $5 a day, you can post a NewComma and say looking for a freelance graphic designer or a full-time advertising creative or any other kind of creative. And once again, the additional layer of NewComma compared to other platforms who target our demographic is instead of just having a directory of the talent or instead of just having a directory of the jobs, you can also shortlist the applicants on NewComma. So within the Jobs Hub, you're able to see all of the creators who have applied for the role, assess their NewComma profiles on the same tab, and then also decide if you want to accept or reject the application, schedule an interview, or if you're kind of in the middle, you can leave them in review to make a decision later on. So all of that is now live on the site now. And as I mentioned earlier, the fourth element to that, which is events, is what's coming up later on in 2024, where creators can buy and sell tickets, event tickets on NewComma. And the reason why we've gone with these particular three features in terms of projects, jobs, and events is those are the three primary things that creatives need, right? They need to be able to connect with people like them. They need to make money and find jobs, but they also need to build and grow their community with events. And in 2024, we're going to look at ways to combine how these different pillars come together. So NewComma, the site in itself, hasn't been available for a year and a half to 2 years, but the NewComma mobile app is only 2 months old, if that. We launched it on the 5th of November in Nairobi with our Common Ground event. So that's also just an example of the series of events that we run across the continent and the diaspora in the UK as well. So yeah, that's the basis of NewComma and what it currently offers.
I was actually going to touch on the app. I was going to congratulate you guys on the app because it looks really good. It's pretty amazing. And I think for me, when I open the app and I just like go through the feed, it's like Oh wow! Literally, I can see different African creatives from like all across Africa, the continent, and the diaspora, and it feels really good. Like it just feels like we're all in one home, and we can literally just access each other by just like connecting through the app. So I'm just like it's quite impressive what you guys are building, and I think another thing I wanted to touch on was like the initiatives because I know that outside of just like helping creatives share their work on the platform and also find jobs and now events and next year. There are so many initiatives that you guys do from like the NewComma Fund to hidden gems. Like you guys have so many. I'd like for you guys to touch on that and I also love to hear the mindset behind creating such initiatives because you could have just stopped at, okay, we've created the platform, you can share your work. I think this is amazing. But then you're going deeper to like really connect with these creatives. Like you said, you launched the app in Nairobi, and I'm like, okay, like I get that you guys are trying to connect creatives, but what business do you have flying all the way to Nairobi? So I would really love to hear that from you guys.
Okay. I mean, it's so interesting because, as you said, when we started, we were actually just going to create a website. Like, that was like what we
100%.
thought is going to solve this problem. Like,
Yeah,
we're like, people can't get discovered. So just give people a website and then they'll get discovered. But you
yeah,
quickly realize that there are other platforms that other people have created in the past that exist as just websites, but there is no sense of community. There is no ability to network. There is no direct benefit that people can see, and it's tangible that you know that being a part of this community leads me to achieve XYZ, right?
right,
So part of the story that actually led up to NewComma was twofold. One of them is that obviously living in London right now, we didn't want to come to Ghana and the rest of Africa with this diaspora savior complex
right.
because that was a massive thing. Like between 2018 and 2020, everyone and anyone who was black lived outside of even now. To be fair, anyone who yeah, everyone wanted to. Yeah, I've graduated uni. I've got my first 3 years of money. I want to go back home and change the country.
Change the
But
world.
change the world, change the country, change my community, get people out of the mud. But
Yeah,
really and truly, like we had to take a step back and actually talk to a whole bunch of people who live on the continent and go through these problems every day. So we spoke to over 150 people. This is ranging from South Africa to Kenya to Nigeria to Ghana to as many places as we could get in touch with, just to understand, okay, this is what our current understanding of the problems faced by young African talent in general are. This is like, these are some of the things that they're facing. Either they can't get jobs, they get paid less, they can't find funding, and we wanted to actually validate that and then propose the ideas that we had just to make sure that we're on the right path, but also learn
right.
about some of the things that they need. So we spoke to different people from magazines, our friends as creatives, the people that they put us in touch with, musicians, DJs, all sorts. And from that, we kind of realized that, okay, the website is just a starting point. People need access to funding, they need access to resources, because even if you have money, you can't easily go and buy a camera for a good price in Ghana, right?
Good
Like
point.
some of the extra stuff, like to buy a mic, you can't just order it off Amazon and it'll come tomorrow. Like you have to think ahead, you have to pay more. And to pay more, you need more money. To get more money, you need more bookings. So it's like just a cycle. So we're
Right.
thinking, how do we fix the cycle for good? And that's kind of the thinking that led to creating a platform that's bigger than just a website. And then that filtered down through into some of the other initiatives, like you've mentioned, the Newcomer Fund, Hidden Gems, Wireframe, On the Go. Like these are things that at the end of the day allow creatives to get that limelight and get access to that funding they need to be able to basically make a living out of their craft. And to be fair, like sometimes like there's no blueprint for building this stuff, right? So
Right.
sometimes it's literally like going with what we feel works best and going with what like the community has indicated they need. the way we've gotten some of those insights is through the fund. And when you do the fund, you have to like explain what you're going to use the money for.
Yeah.
And some of it is literally, they want to buy new podcast equipment, or they want to finish paying for a subscription so that they can
Right.
get something color graded. Or sometimes it seems simple, but it's those simple things that can make a massive difference. And you can just imagine
True.
you do simple things for millions of people and you make a massive difference for a whole continent. So I think that's like the general thinking. But going into a bit more detail about like those specific initiatives, the NewComma Fund was something that we started, I think, in 2021. That was like
Okay.
the first time. It was just, yeah, 1 of February, we had a £600 grant. And it was really at the time, like 2021, thinking about, Charlie, people are really suffering. Like they're really going through stuff, right?
Post-COVID.
This is like towards the, around the whole NSARS time, around the whole Black Lives Matter situation,
Yeah.
lockdown, people aren't getting jobs, people are being laid off. And we're just thinking, okay, how do we actually give something to people that they can benefit from straight away? Because we knew we were building a platform, but the benefits weren't very evident at the time. So we said, we have this amount of money that we can donate because we know it'll make a difference. And that's what's important to us. So we did that, and we had 3 grants awarded. One was £300, one was £200, and one was 100. And we met some incredible people from Nigeria, Ghana, and South Africa as well. And
Yeah.
that is like how we feel like we can contribute to the community with the little that we have, and then just like building on that over time. So we did that in 2021 as a one-off. Getting into 2022, we're like, now we have to be consistent with this because we've seen how transformational it is. Like by the end
Yeah.
of 2021, some of the people that we had given the funding had been able to grow their careers in such a way that they never could have imagined. And it wasn't necessarily because of us. It was just because that funding validated the belief they had in themselves, the belief they had in their skills, and kind of just gave them that little push that sometimes you just need, right, as a creative.
Yeah.
So that's what we tried to maintain. And like next year, we're trying to obviously do bigger and better because every year that's the goal, right? You have to do a bit more than you did the previous year. The
Yeah.
other initiatives, and this is more about like an awareness piece, and Natalie is the creator of like 99% of some of these things. So I'll let her touch on that as well. But just quickly, I think we were actually talking about this recently. Hidden Gems feels so much like the Cool Kids project because at the end of the day, it's trying to show people what has always been there within their communities, on their same WhatsApp groups, on their same Twitter profiles. Like these talented people are there right in our faces, but we don't, see them shine like we feel they should. So that's like the aim. That's the aim, to show that people are shining right next to us and just
Yeah.
shine that light to make them glisten even more. So
Just
it's
giving
very
them
like
that spotlight.
exactly a spotlight
Yeah.
again. But Natalie, please get into some more detail on that.
Hey guys, I'm actually really excited for this season of the podcast to be sponsored by NewComma because I personally use the platform and I've also been an avid follower of their journey because I really do think that it's a game changer for Black and African creatives. Okay, let me tell you about the platform for real. So NewComma is a social media platform for Black and African creatives to share their work, find jobs, as well as events. The platform has amazing features that caters to both creatives and businesses. For creatives, you can use NewComma projects to create an online portfolio that allows you to collaborate with other creatives on the platform and also attract clients. Businesses can use NewComma jobs to set a description, set a budget, and post their jobs for creatives to apply. Businesses can also shortlist and discover talented creatives directly on the platform. An exciting new feature that's coming up is NewComma Events. This feature allows you to buy and sell event tickets directly on the platform. NewComma is building an amazing community of African and Black creatives. To join this amazing community, sign up on newcomma.com or download the app on the App Store or the Google Play Store. And don't forget to connect with me on there.
Yeah, I was literally taking notes here because I didn't want to forget anything. But the
Okay.
2 things that I wanted to say was, one, we actually see everything. I think people think that because people are just randomly posting and stuff, we don't necessarily take note of all the content that is posted. But the reason why I say that is Knox, who actually won the £300 grant back in 2021, we ended up sponsoring her debut solo exhibition in South Africa later on in 2022, December of 2022 last year. And it was actually because of NOS that we started the On the Go series back in January of this year. Because obviously NOS lives in South Africa, we live in London. So we hadn't necessarily prepared the thought of ever meeting NOS. And eventually she was like, oh, by the way, I'll be in Paris in January. Do you want to meet me there? So I was like, okay, yeah, sure, cool. Because obviously getting to Paris from London is a lot easier to getting to South Africa. So I met her at NOS, and through meeting her, we were just casually spending the day learning about each other as creators, but then also me understanding the insights of NOS as a person and how that informed her career as a photographer. And I was just casually recording her answers as she did so. And that's what birthed the On the Go series, where we spend a day with the creative to learn more about them and their life and how that inspires their work. And the reason why I bring that up is because relationships are such an important part of NewComma. NewComma isn't just a business for us. It's extensively a way of life in a lot of ways, because you get invested in the people as they are and what they contribute to the industry. And that interaction with NOS was just an example of how we wanted to build that relationship with her outside of just saying, okay, you do some great work, here's some £300, we call it a day. And there's so many applications that we get monthly with the NewComma Fund, where sometimes we make our decisions based on who we have already awarded. We want to make sure that we're covering as wide of a spectrum as we can across nationality, gender, sexuality, and even creative disciplines. So sometimes it's not like people don't win because they don't deserve the money. It's just because we're trying to widen our spectrum as much as possible. And what that means is we are always taking note of the people who stand out. That the very fact that we're here on this podcast is a testament to that, because we discovered your work through the fund, and then we're like, okay, this feels bigger than what we are sectioning within this particular spectrum of funding or sponsoring. So that's also one thing to note. There's always builds on top of how we interact with creatives that ends up coming up with different series as well. We did Hidden Gems with Baba J earlier on this week, who has also been an applicant of the NewComma Creative Fund. So for us, there's many ways that we can hold a place or a space in people's creative lives. And I think that's also another thing that informed the fact that NewComma is more than just a website. The primary mission is to connect creatives to themselves and opportunities. That can live on a site, that can happen with events, that can happen with a job, that can happen in lots of different formats. And for us, as much as the social media platform is the primary thing about NewComma, NewComma is a wider ecosystem of creative interactions and opportunities that live within that. So yeah, that's what primarily informs our editorial series, but then that's what also informs the way we build the structures like the NewComma Creative Fund.
That's really amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of sidetrack a bit and play a game with you guys. I would love to know your favorite art forms, because I know like you guys interact with different creative disciplines, but I kind of want to put you guys on the spot a little bit, just to know personally what some of your favorite art forms are. So it's going to be a game of this or that, and you guys will have to let me know what you pick, right? So between music and fashion, what would you go for?
Music.
Music as well.
Music as well. Amazing. Visual arts and sculpturing.
Visual arts.
For me to do visual arts, but for me, for something I wish to do, sculpting. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. It's too easy for Nigel. The way he's just picking, I'm like, like, I'm trying to put him in a spot. It's easy. Like the way he's just picking, I'm like, don't do this. Right now, I'm like, okay, you need to be more creative.
These are too far apart.
If you said something like photography and videography, that would lock Nigel, I think.
That's when I have to think.
Oh,
But
okay. I think that's my next one. Videography and photography. Thank you, Natalie.
you see, the good thing is I was anticipating that question. That's why I even led us that way. But, in all honesty, it's very hard to answer. And the reason is because I've been doing photography longer than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm super interested in videography. And it's more about like making content. That's like the thing that like I got a new camera this year in March. And basically almost every month I've been trying to film something. There's a whole bunch of stuff I haven't even put out yet. I made a YouTube channel. Like I have the header and everything. I spent like a week making that stuff and I haven't even put out a single video. But the stuff that I'm doing on NewComma is like fulfilling that desire to create right now. And that's why like I'll do videography. But I feel like the thing that I can always do, like if you wake me up at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. and just say, here's a camera, it's probably going to be easier for me to take pictures than shoot a whole video.
Than to shoot, right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Natalie, what about you?
I feel like I prefer, as tasking and exhausting as it is, I think I prefer video editing to videography and photography. I think photography. Nigel is the complete opposite. Nigel should take years to edit a video, but I think especially.
I'm like, no, but you know what? I'm with you, Nigel, because I feel like editing, you have to have some kind of patience.
Yeah, exactly. You have to zone in. You can't do anything else.
You really have to.
Yeah. You can't listen to music.
Really take your time.
So sometimes it feels like torture. Like when we were in Nairobi, Natalie was editing, but she was listening to music at the same time. I was like, when did you unlock this level of?
No, honestly, I need to know, Natalie, because I feel like I need to make sure. Okay, I don't miss this. Let's replay. I cannot listen to music.
I remember when I calculated, like I was trying to make these like vlogs in uni, and it would take me 7 hours to do like a minute of like the edit. And now I watch back, like, bro, you weren't even doing anything that crazy. Like, why was it taking you so long?
I completely relate. Like, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, but it's like, because I consume a lot of content, like the first thing that comes up when I switch on my TV is YouTube or Netflix before anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I want to try and like make my content as enjoyable or as like high quality as that stuff.
Yeah.
That's why like for, a normal like podcast, I have this mic. I don't even do podcasts. I have this light behind me. I don't even like half the time, like I don't really need the stuff, but because it's so exciting to work on. Yeah. So I like the filming, but editing, there's not enough hours in the day. I think that's the thing. Like
I really always have to big up editors because I'm like, you guys are really doing the Lord's work.
I feel like the main part is cool for me because my background right before working in NewComma full time was in social media content. My focus is always on the first 15 seconds. So I spend most of my editing hours on the intro. Once the intro is done, then it's just like, that's when I can start listening to my music, all of that. Because I know, especially if we shot the video ourselves, I'm already familiar with what they're saying. So I know the order in how I want things to go. But the intro is where I know if this is being shared to stories, this is probably the main bits people are going to see. And it needs to be catchy enough for them to be able to tap into and watch the full thing. So, after that 15 seconds is pretty much cool sailing from there. But everything else before then is just a nightmare. Even sometimes it's picking the song for the video edit can be a headache in itself. So yeah, but I think it's all around enjoyable because it combines everything, right? It's graphic design, it's photography, it's videography, it's animation. There's always lots of, and because I like to do a lot of things, I feel like video editing puts it all together.
I mean, when you put it like that, yeah, I can see how.
It's still like, that's too much.
Yeah, that's more, yeah. when you put it like that, I can definitely understand where you're coming from with that. But that's amazing. One thing I want to know is, I know putting up a platform like this from its inception, I mean, to be fair, the first time I saw NewComma, I was like, ooh, this is pretty interesting. And this looks like LinkedIn for creatives. I don't know why that was like my mindset, but I was like, oh, this actually looks like LinkedIn for creatives. And even at the time, like you hadn't even, there wasn't so much going on, but you were like, bringing it out. And I was like, oh, this is pretty exciting. And I got more so excited when I found out it was like founded by Ghanaians. And I think where I'm going with this question is, I know that it looks so good on the outside, and I can only imagine what it was like trying to put together a platform like this. So I would like to know, what were some of the challenges you guys encountered whilst you were building this amazing platform?
Nigel, I know you're going on, but I just want to say one thing. I don't think enough people understand how you can't Google how do you build a social media platform. Like there are thousands of other businesses where, I don't know, if you started an equipment hire company, there's like literally thousands of businesses that you can reference or model after. Or if you're selling goods and services, like I'm always comparing us to people who can just start making money from day one. Like I've just decided to sell phones or refurbished phones. Like that's something you can get from the ground up and get going. But building a social media platform, I remember even trying to set up our business insurance at the top of the year, and they didn't even know what category to put us in because they were like, there are a lot of you guys. So it's on one side, it's a great thing because it feels fresh in a lot of ways. But on the other side of things, we have it's really challenging to troubleshoot certain things or to manage expectations of people, because we're literally saying this earlier last week that people expect the feed to work the same way an Instagram or a Twitter will work. Twitter was founded in 2006. Instagram maybe 2011. NewComma 2021. So the kind of features, or even Facebook 2008, right, or 2007. So the kind of features they would have with literally billions of dollars pumped into it, hundreds of employees across the globe, constantly troubleshooting and working on these things. We have a team of 5 people internally, and we also have an agency who works on the revenue generating features as well on the mobile app. So on one side, it allows us to experiment and define newcomer however we want to. But then on the other side, it then introduces so many layers that we didn't even know existed before, because there's no one to tell us, oh, look out for this hurdle on your way here, because we have to define those hurdles for ourselves. But yeah, that's what I wanted to set the foundation with. So Nigel, you could go ahead.
Yeah, no, those are completely valid points. Like,
Yeah.
as I said, there's no blueprint for building this kind of thing. So it's not like I can go and YouTube a tutorial, like, how do we build this? But I think the challenge has probably been knowing that we can do some things and some things are in our control, understanding that there are things to learn which we don't yet know most of the time, and then just going out to learn that, whether that's like some aspect of sales or marketing or web development or a whole bunch of stuff. And then like being able to deliver what people expect of us on time. Like there are so many things that we want to do. Most of NewComma is actually designed maybe for the next 1.5 years. Like our Figma page is done. Like we have so many features that people haven't even seen or even thought about.
Yeah.
So when people tell us, oh, you guys should do this, half of it feels like validation, like we're heading in the right direction. Half of it is so painful because we've already designed it and we're yet to implement it. So we're like, yeah, don't worry, it's coming, it's coming.
Yeah.
Like when we launched our wait list on 14th December 2020, and that's the date that we can never forget. We were expecting NewComma to basically go live like April of 2021. We got to April and we had to do a complete rewrite of the whole platform because it wasn't built or done like in the way that we needed that would be scalable and basically robust for the future. So we ended up launching like much later in the year in terms of like a private beta. And then so basically we had a year where we were only around like 200 users who were testing the platform, and that was very manual. Like, so these are some of the things that we've had to overcome. The great thing right now is that we're almost on 8,000 people on the platform itself, and over
Amazing.
25,000 across our entire network of creatives, talent, enthusiasts, supporters, partners, all sorts of things. So yeah, that's been like one of the biggest things, like trying to learn what we don't know, trying to build and deliver on time, and trying to meet people's expectations. I guess the other thing is also like probably more internal. Like, we're a team full of creatives, everyone is going to come with their own ideas. And to be fair, like, full transparency, Natalie and I don't always agree. And I don't think you should always agree on
Yeah,
things.
I
Like,
get that.
it's a healthy balance, because like yesterday, I was at a colleague's leaving drinks, and we had to have a call because we were going through our pitch deck. And there are some slides that I love, and I'll always try and argue my case. There are some slides that Natalie loves, and she'll always try and argue a case. So
Yeah,
oftentimes, our third, partner, our CTO, Barima, he's in the middle, like, okay, guys, I'm gonna help you design, but please
yeah,
don't chew my head. But it's
right.
things like that that you naturally go through, and naturally help you grow as a person, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's really trying to achieve a mission. And then, yeah, there are just a whole bunch of other things. I guess if I was to say what's the most challenging thing so far, it's been raising money. Like, raising money for NewComma was the single hardest thing we've had to do probably this year, because
Yeah,
everything else, there basically wasn't as much pressure because we knew what we were doing, we knew how to
right.
deliver. Raising money was the first time we'd ever done anything to that scale. And the opportunity cost of not raising the money was so great that we couldn't afford to fail.
Yep.
Like, I was doing some research recently. It's something like the funding from global venture capital goes to only 0.5% of the funding globally from venture capital goes to Black founders. Like, that 0.5%. So the 99.5% goes elsewhere. Like,
Yeah,
if you look at, for instance, Black female or Black women founders, it's something like 0.06%.
yeah. I think I
Um,
read that quite
yeah, of
recently as
funding
well.
in
Yeah,
the UK.
yeah.
Then you look at, like, when it comes to employment opportunities, Africa has some of the highest unemployment rates. When you look at some of the pay gaps, like beyond ethnicity, there's gender. Like, there's so many things that are invisible or hidden factors when it comes to raising funding that just multiply the scale of the problem. So that's definitely been the single hardest thing. And naturally, we're going to do it again. So it's like, okay, we've done it once. It was hard. We know that
Yeah,
this next one is going to be even harder. But I think
right.
we've been able to, as always, like, learn from it,
Yeah.
basically use the skills that we used and were successful in that first round to figure out what we can do better in this next round.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think right now, and a lot of people have said this either directly or personally, like, we really feel like the sky is the limit. Like, what we're trying to do, at least going into the future of NewComma, is we understand that the creative industry is where the opportunity is right now, but
yeah,
we don't want to neglect the people in tech, which we still consider as
definitely.
part of the creative industry, to be fair,
Yeah,
but we want
yeah.
to be able to focus on them a bit more explicitly. And then the professional services industry, which I've just come from, because there's an abundance of talent there. I'm sure everyone knows an accountant, a banker, a lawyer,
Definitely. Yeah,
all those kind of traditional professions that people are pushing us into. They also deserve the limelight.
yeah,
So gradually, I think we will try and expand, but that's like for much later down the line. Right now, it's just overcoming these challenges so we can deliver value for the people that are right now trying to, make it in the creative industry. And then as we learn from that process, we can apply that and make it better for everyone.
that's really amazing. It doesn't look like you guys have gone through those challenges because, listen, everything just really looks top notch. And to be fair, you people really do well as well to what's it called, to support Black and African creatives like myself.
Thank you.
So you guys are really doing an amazing job. Okay, now aside from challenges, let's talk about some of your favorite things creating this platform. Like, what would you say are some of like the highlights, the things that have fulfilled you guys, the things that let you wake up every morning and being like, okay, yesterday was hard, but we go again today.
I think for me, it's really the people. If I'm being honest, like the people that I've met through NewComma, either by being a NewComma user in themselves, or people that we partner with for our events, or people that we meet at other people's creative events. Like, I think it's made such a big difference to how I define myself as a creative, and also learning how to challenge myself more to properly silo the creative things I like to do professionally, but then also the creative things I like to do in a personal capacity, and then also when to have them overlap. Like, I love going to concerts, like live shows. I'm probably at one twice or three times a month, and we're able to curate our own live shows now. We're able to feature people who are hosting their own live shows, and for me, it's from a personal and professional capacity. The highlight for me this year has been settling a bit more into that, especially now we're working on NewComma full time. I think that's probably the biggest highlight for me, being able to fully immerse myself into what this mission is. Because from Jan of 2020, when we first like scoped out NewComma, to June of 2023, I was balancing this with a full time job, and Nigel up until November of this year. So I think the primary highlight for me is being able to do this full time, but then also seeing the community grow. Last year around this time, literally on the 31st of December 2022, that's when we hit 2,000 users, and we'll be closing 2023 with over 8,000 users and with over 25,000 across our entire digital community. Last year, that was about 10K. And even the mere fact that Jobs is live, I think that's definitely a big highlight, because Jobs was supposed to launch summer of last year, and I think for that to finally be on the platform it's almost like people have had the concept of what NewComma is supposed to be for years now. Literally on 14 December 2020, we said NewComma would have all of these features, and we're only just launching them. So I think going from NewComma, I always say going from NewComma the theory to NewComma like what it is today will always be a win. There's more like intricate highlights, but I'll let Nigel go into those as well.
All right, cool. Yeah. So in terms of highlights for me, I think the first one is when the waitlist page went live. I was just so surprised that people we didn't know were signing up. Like, that was the thing. Like, I can't believe like people are signing up. Like, these are people I haven't DM'd. I haven't, done anything. Like, all we did was like share what we're trying to achieve, and they really believed in the mission from day one. That was definitely the first highlight. The second highlight, probably just as Natalie said, like the people that we meet. Like, to be fair, Natalie is always, I would say, in most cases, fighting me to do more events so that we can like connect with people. And I'm like, Charlie, they're expensive. When people are paying us in cedis and shillings, Charlie, the money is not making sense. But like, nevertheless, like we've still like persevered and found ways and means to do it in a way that makes sense. And every time I go to a NewComma event, I'm like, okay, I'm glad we did this. Like, it was expensive, but I'm glad we did this.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, in Kenya, we met Philip. Like, Natalie had met him earlier on in March when we did our first event in Kenya. And when I got to meet Philip, like, it was like meeting a friend I've always had, like, because we believe in the same things. We're trying to achieve the same goals for the people in our community, the people that we care about. And it's crazy that these people exist. It's just that all we needed was a platform to bring us together. And that's the feeling that I feel we're trying to give to other people. Like, that being a part of the NewComma community, you can find that friend, whether it's in Rwanda or Uganda or Togo, which people don't, even, people are not going to enough. Or Benin. They're all around, right? They're all around. And we just needed something to bring us together. So that's probably the second highlight. The third highlight is seeing like people use the services, the products, the features, Like when I see like amazing work, like I message Natalie like, "Yo, have you seen this guy's project, or have you seen their portfolio? This girl's
Yeah.
work, like this girl's art." And when people then start sharing that outside of the platform, that's when like my mind is like, "Yo, like they've gone from." They didn't know about NewComma, so they know about NewComma. Now they're basically preaching about NewComma for,
Yeah.
the community. And I think that benefits so many people because
Mhm.
some of the challenges right now that creatives and I myself and Natalie have faced is when you're getting into it, you don't really know, like, you don't really have a reference point. Like, how do I create a portfolio? How do I even want to start a website? How do I get clients? How do I build my network? And
Yeah.
being a part of a community that's figuring that out together at the same time, I think makes a massive difference. So those are the three highlights for me for sure.
I'm not going to out who they are, but two people have actually started dating off the back of one of our events. And I think I just
Oh
love
my
how, like,
God.
I love how there's like interactions happening, obviously outside of professional interactions as well, because we do run events that are purely for entertainment as well. So, like our concerts and stuff like that. So, yeah. So, like, connected. We are not connectors of professions,
Let
but
me
then
tell
also
you,
not
you
connectors
guys,
of
you
love.
guys are not only giving creatives the platform to share their work and find jobs and attend events or even list their events. You are creating long life partnerships.
Can you
We're
imagine?
actually, so I love that.
Like,
So
Long life partnerships. No, that's so amazing. I'm actually very happy to hear that. Thank you, Natalie, for sharing this highlight, guys. And for anyone listening or watching, this should let you know that you do not only get a push in your creative careers, but also you can find your man or your woman, you know, by associating with NewComma. Just saying, just saying. So if you're a DJ, you're a model, an entrepreneur, let me not be clapping, an entrepreneur, um, anyone across like the creative spectrum, you should definitely check out NewComma because it's such an amazing platform. And they're pretty new, but they're doing amazing, amazing things. And yeah, just be a part of it to elevate yourself professionally and personally as well. Nigel and Natalie, I would like to thank you guys so much for honoring my invitation to be on the pod with me. It's been a
thank you for
pleasure
having us.
talking about NewComma with you guys.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been great. Like, we should do this more often.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. I
this is
think
good.
when events come live, we have to figure out a way to kind of just create a pod for that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we actually have some guys in Kenya lined up for using it for their first couple of events next year. So yeah, if anyone is interested, I think another thing to note, and going quickly back to what Natalie said about jobs and jobs being live and jobs being the holy grail that we're chasing like all of 2022
Yeah.
is, I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but we want to give a bunch of discounts to people who really, really need like freelancers, part time, full time staff. Because right now, like posting job ads on, for instance, Twitter or Instagram, it feels like you're shouting in a market, and the people in the
Right.
market don't care about jobs; they care about posting their own content.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is like just make a focused area for people to know that they can either find talent or find jobs, and we want to make that price barrier basically almost non-existent. So we're looking to give out a whole bunch of discounts. All you have to do is get in touch with us. I'm sure we can put the details somewhere, and then we
Yeah.
can
Just
set that
in the
up.
description.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe even like in the description for listening to this pod, I think that's like one incentive, like, or one free gift we can give, like a discount on jobs.
Guys, I'm not saying this, they're saying this. So please do
Hey,
not.
we're saying it. We're the ones
They're
saying it.
saying it. So please do not dull. Yeah. Thank you guys so much again. And I cannot wait to see what NewComma has for us in the future, honestly.
Fingers
We can't wait to
crossed.
see the same for CTN. Maybe a live
Same.
podcast show. Once
Facts.
we put events live. So
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
looking for it.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Change in the Narrative podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor and like, share, and subscribe to the Change in the Narrative podcast.